Zack Snyder gung-ho on Dark Knight Returns and Justice League finale. Well, that's considerably different than what was rumored prior, to the big WBD bidding war, which seems, and pretty much all said and done, Paramount is the winner. So, and before that, he thought, hey, he might do Dark Knight Returns, and that was thought to be the Netflix deal if they got it. And then it started to move towards if Paramount gets it, well, they're going to want the DCEU, and so that means Justice League finale and all that. But here, hey, why not both? So, it's not. March 1st was Zack Snyder's birthday. That's when this article came out. But nevertheless, So with Paramount now winning the Warner Brothers Discovery bid, Cosmic Book News insiders now say Snyder is preparing for something even bigger. Snyder was born March 1st, 1966, which makes this a milestone birthday, and it lands right in the middle of his recent March-themed teases. So, was this a great birthday gift, for Zack Snyder? He sure looks happy about it all, and I wonder where he is. He's got his super-duper expensive camera, and then, anyway, per the insiders, Zack's gung-ho about Dark Knight Returns and the Justice League finale. He's had it mapped out and well prepared. The two heads of the Saudi investment companies are massive comic book fans and fans of his, and they want to go big with the properties. The key detail here is the both angle. Yeah, that's what changes the story on this. And a bit about the Saudis. One of the things about, certainly at this late date, of a restoration of Snydervrse in any form or fashion, was going to take some kind of sugar daddy. So, it's got its fans, but if those fans are multi-billionaires from Saudi Arabia, well, that can go a long way, The way it's being described to us now is that Snyder isn't choosing between finishing his Justice League story or doing a Frank Miller-style Dark Knight Returns movie. He's looking at a path that includes doing both. That's huge. Yeah, I would say so. We previously reported that Saudi-backed interests were positioned as a major factor in a Snyderverse comeback, with our sources pointing to Snyder's existing relationships and the possibility of Christopher Nolan being involved as an executive producer if the right ownership and financing aligned. We also reported an insider update that the Saudis wanted the Snyderverse restored, with Henry Cavill as Superman, and that Ben Affleck's Batman was described as a possibility, or possibly returning, depending on how the pieces came together. We reported that the Saudi goal wasn't small. The idea, as described to us, was to rival Marvel with an event-level DC approach, which is why Snyder's social media activity ramped up while the sale process accelerated. Well, I don't think you'd need to worry about Marvel so much. They're really done themselves in. So you're going to be rivaling, anything else at this point for that. And even then, it's going to be tough. But as far as Marvel, I think we'll see what Avengers Doomsday can do, if that can really give them a second win. But I don't know. But anyway, now that Paramount has effectively won the bidding battle for WBD, the power shift becomes real. That matters because the new leadership's priorities will drive what DC becomes next. Insiders continue to tell us that Snyder's brand of large-scale mythic event storytelling is a perfect fit for Paramount's go big ownership mindset. And we've already been told that Paramount plans to go big, including G.I. Joe movies, backed up by Deadline. Over the past few days, Snyder and his circle have kept the spotlight on his DC EU era. Snyder's posts have leaned into March as a defining month for him, and his sharing of Henry Cavill as Superman reignited rebirth talk among fans right as the WBD sales heated up. At the time, Josh Horowitz had been using the Batman v Superman 10-year anniversary to put Snyder back in front of a large mainstream audience with a long-term conversation that including Snyder saying that he'd never say there's no way about more Justice League in some form. Nothing has been officially announced, but if our insiders are right, and they often are, the plan isn't a single one-off. The pitch is bigger, featuring a Dark Knight Returns style project and Justice League sequels. I think you mean sequels. Both backed by deep-pocketed comic book fans who want to swing for the fences to take on Disney and Marvel. With Paramount now in control of WBD and Snyder tuning up the volume in March, on his birthday no less, it doesn't read like nostalgia. It reads like it's happening. Well, yeah, at this point, I'm sure there's been some discussions about what's possible and what could happen should the cards fall into place. And I mean, this is a lot of rumor and people on the inside talking about that if Paramount gets it, there's more of a chance for a full-on Snydervrse return. Whereas the Netflix deal, they thought, well, Dark Knight Returns could be a film that he could do. And who knows, maybe even have Affleck and Cavill play Batman and Superman in that. So, but now this is teasing like, no, I can do both. So, okay. But as far as, let's say that they're really seriously interested in the Ellisons, or they've won them over and thinking, yeah, this is something to pursue when it comes to DC. They're chasing the other brands they already have with G.I. Joe and Transformers and all that. Then a Star Trek movie and that sort of thing. But for DC, my guess is they might actually push more for Justice League 2 and something like that. Just the interest alone and the sudden stunning course change and whatnot of that sort of approach to it, it might have enough buzz just in that alone to garner excitement for the project. So they might pursue that, and Dark Knight Returns would be a separate project at some time later. I mean, I think they missed the opportunity to incorporate the story in this, unless, like, now Snyder's been teasing about, yeah, if I got a chance to do Justice League 2 and 3, they would be a bit different from what my original plan was. Because the storyboards, he already posted that out in the whole Snyder Cut celebration and stuff like that. So you knew how those movies were going to go. Everything was revealed. So you're going to want to change that up a bit so that there's some surprise to it. So, of course, Batman was set to die at the end of Justice League 3. But what if this time he doesn't? And then they go into Dark Knight Returns. So they had all these glory days and big adventures, and it continued on. And then, I don't know, things went bad between him and Superman. And you end up with that. Now, initially, what Batman v Superman is, it borrows heavily from Dark Knight Returns. Superman, you somewhat you take from the death of Superman story, but only rather, Doomsday shows up and kills Superman. So you got that. The overall story and whatnot of that one, bears very little resemblance. Actual scenes from Dark Knight Returns were played out in that movie. And of course, I've always thought, maybe since Snyder really wanted to do that movie, Batman vs Superman should have just been Dark Knight Returns, and then they could do the rest of their DCEU movies. Says, well, this is what happened in between, And then after that, you follow it up with Man of Steel 2, which is often its own other storyline. And whereas he's saying, yeah, I wanted to do Man of Steel 2 and Batman versus Superman. Well, it was kind of a separate thing, but it plays off as the sequel to that movie because the ramifications of what happened in Man of Steel sets off the movie. So, yeah. And he did mention he wanted it to be a Brainiac story. And of course, yeah, oh man. And even with his narrative about Darkseid, I've talked about Brainiac could fit in with that. And there's a warning because Brainiac goes to doomed worlds to collect one of their cities. And which is what he did to Krypton. He took Kandor from there because he knew the planet was going to die. So why is the Earth dying? Well, Darkseid's on the way. So you could set up something like that in that narrative, and that would have been great. As it stands, we're going to get a Superman versus Brainiac in Man of Tomorrow with James Gunn's Superman. So probably that Man of Steel 2 will never happen. Yeah. It's too bad because, man, that really would have fit in really well. But, I don't know, but odds are something of this version of the characters could possibly return. And again, one of the big factors here isn't just the sell, but it's he's got some rich backers here who apparently, according to this, really want it. And if they're willing to put their money on it, that's probably an easy sell because it's, the only risk is that if Zack screws it up and messes it up and makes it bad, then it's brand damage. And that's something that Paramount wouldn't want, But other than that, they're not risking a whole lot when you've got big pocketed producers willing to fund this film. So that does increase the odds that this is a possibility something like this could occur. So, I don't know. We'll see.